we didn't really vacation. There are other kids in the neighborhood. They went on vacations, and you know, I'd be very jealous of that. And I always think, oh, maybe one day we would be able to do something like when the girls are older, women. And so one day, my father comes home and announces, we're going on a family vacation. And I couldn't believe it because we'd never gone anywhere. And then he says, we're going to Cedar Point. Cedar Point! Anybody know Cedar Point? Yeah. Oh, awesome! All right, so for those who don't understand, it's for a poor kid in Detroit, it's like Disneyland. Disneyland! Cedar Point! Here we come, here we come! I was beyond excited. So, and of course, all of my friends were jealous. And for weeks, I walked around, I'm going to Cedar Point. I'm going to Cedar Point, because their stories were unbelievable. People used to, the rides were so dangerous that just describing them, people would throw up. I would imagine our family on that roller coaster. Oh, it was delightful. Me and Dad would be in the front, and we would be chuck, 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 and my sisters and my mom would be somewhere back there, and I don't care, because our hands would be up, and we'd be screaming, ah! It was wonderful. For weeks, I dreamed about it, and I thought at the moment that we arrived in the park that morning, I hardly slept at all. The excitement, the adrenaline of just being with my family on those rides, and I can imagine all the different things we'd be doing, and so much excitement. We got into the park, and I remember hearing the sounds of the calliope coming from the midway as you were entering in the big gates, and there were all the games and everything, and beyond that was all the little rides, and then there were the bigger rides, and then, you know, how parks are set up. And so all these, I was just so excited that the first thing that we did, my dad took us into the park, and we walked through the gates, and we got to the midway area where there were these games, and I was just so excited to be playing these games, but my sisters couldn't do it because they were just babies. I could do it with my dad. So we shot, first of all, we shot guns at the paper targets. BB guns. I never got to shoot a BB gun. This was great stuff. I couldn't wait to tell my friends. And then we had throwing the baseballs at those bowling pin things. And my dad was great at it. He threw them, knocked them down, and I stunk. I stunk at the BB guns. I stunk at the baseball. I couldn't do anything. I was really frustrated. So we went to this. The next thing was the throwing the little rubber hoops and the Coke bottles. And so I had this technique where I would just flip those rubber things, flip them over there, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bingo! Hey, I got what was it, a dart gun or something. And then the next thing, flip. Hey, another winner! I was a winner again. I was a winner. Dad, I'm a winner. So my dad was so proud. He's like, oh, sure, I'm gonna buy a bunch of tokens. Oh, I gotta get back. I was flicking and throwing. I was throwing it on my back, throwing it up over my. I was showing off, you know. And winning these prizes, I couldn't decide. Did I want the duck or the bear? The duck or the bear? This beautiful stuffed thing. I don't know, and I don't know what to choose. I looked around and say, Dad, I don't know, should I get the duck or the bear? And he was gone. And I was really taken back because I've never been left anywhere really. They weren't helicopter parents, but I sure didn't get left in stores. So I went looking for my sisters and my mom, and I couldn't find them either. I walked through that midway. I remember stopping at each one of the games. I remember waiting and looking to see if they were coming back. I kept going back to the bottles, hoping that, well, maybe my dad would come back. Maybe he was just gone for a little while. Maybe he just, you know. And so I didn't know what to do. I was certainly not a coddled child. We were left out to play on our own. So, well, I just kept looking for them. And I went from the Midway into the games and the rides. And I remember going to each one of the rides and looking at the whirly-bird. And I was watching the kids laughing, and the families on that one were going around, and I want to ride this with my dad. And I remember looking at they had a helicopter there, the actual helicopters that you could push and ride, and push this little thing that would go up. And I wanted to ride that so bad, but I didn't realize you really didn't need a ticket. And so I went to the roller coaster part, and I watched. I stood there in that line, next to the line, not going in, just kind of stepping back as each one went in. And I was watching as each one of the families went in, and people would come off, and some would look really sick, but some would mostly would look really happy, and they'd be delighted. And then I would wander back to the Midway, and I did this from about 10 in the morning till almost 5 at night, wandering back and forth, and wondering what I would do. I didn't know where I would eat. I didn't know what to do or who to talk to. It wasn't stranger danger at that point, but I didn't really feel like talking to anybody. I was alone. And then I met Kenny. Kenny in the gang. Kenny was a Boy Scout. I knew that because he had a Boy Scout shirt on, and one of those scarf things. But Kenny's gang didn't all have Boy Scout things, so I'm not sure exactly where they came from. And Kenny was with a bunch of kids, and they were running from ride to ride. And I was running with them. I said, oh, I'm gonna just run with these guys because nobody will notice. And sure enough, nobody did notice. Nobody did notice. The mothers and whoever were just pushing us all on. Didn't matter, right? So I was running with Kenny for a while, and I didn't know Kenny from hole in the ground. I didn't even think to ask one of the mothers or any other. And so we at one point, I remember we were running, and it was in between a very long set of rides, and things got a little strange. First we were chasing each other, and then it was like, well, who are we going to chase next? Well, suddenly they looked at me, and Kenny he picked up a stick from somewhere, and he had this spear that he was sharpening on the ground. And I really wasn't sure what was happening, so rather than do a Lord of the Flies thing, I ran away, and I did not live out that book there, and I kept walking and walking, and ultimately, it was near the front of the park that when it was closing, it was near the end of the day, people were leaving in droves, and I'm looking, and it wasn't until a year or two later when I realized that I actually had such poor vision, I probably missed walking by them a couple of times, and at that point I didn't have glasses. And so at the end of the day, they come like walking out of the fog, like a beautiful vision. Suddenly, there they are, my family. I was overcome with emotion. I was weeping and crying and running into their arms. Mama, Daddy, oh, I can't believe it. And they're like, what? We thought, what? You weren't, we thought you were playing. We thought you were in the park. But they had no idea. Had no idea. No idea. How alone I was. How crushed and destroyed. Oh, that's too bad. Let's get a hamburger. That's my story.